and see how this all kind of pans out. If the bit rate is low at the beginning here, I've seen it kick back and do better a little later. So,
Can
hi
Victor
everybody.
prompt right in the chat? Is that a thing?
In VC Create, yeah, not
Okay.
in VC Text.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Go on.
Nah, you're good. You're good. So at this point, I definitely want to show off kind of at least what sort of stuff we can make with in painting, as well as really talk about why this is such an important tool for Midjourney users, because there's just so much potential in storytelling with AI imagery. It doesn't tell a story without having you know continuity of not just the characters like we've done before, but continuity of props and especially things like hand gestures. Like the biggest thing for me that came with Midjourney in painting is being able to talk with your hands now. You can have characters gesture in ways that is much more natural. You can basically, with exception to one specific rude hand gesture, you can make people talk in all sorts of funny ways now. So that'll be fun to explore here today. But I definitely want to show off this comic first here. All right, so this is the comic that I posted on Reddit yesterday, and I made this in preparation for today, actually. I was like, okay, I really want to show off the, character injection, right? So that, how I was able to get Sage and him to be continuous in this, and also how to make it not look like AI imagery. Like not one person called me out for this for being AI. It just doesn't really look like something that you would imagine would be AI, because it makes sense in a way that is, consistent and whatnot. When we go through, exactly how I made this, what I started off with doesn't really look like this comic much at all, but it instead shared all the composition of what I imagined would work for the joke. A lot of people ask me, do I start with, the joke, or do I start with the generated imagery, or what? And it's never really the same. I oftentimes explore a lot with AI imagery, and then that will inspire an idea to spin off of. At least in this situation, I had a pretty good idea of, I just wanted Sage tired at work. That's really all that I wanted out of that originally, and then just kind of built the idea from there. If I pull up now the kind of workflow here, um, this is a GIF that shows the in painting that was done in order to make this work. And while that's actually going, I'm gonna hop on over to my private Discord here, just so that I can. And I say private, you guys are all welcome to join and stuff, but this is where I generate everything, is on my Movie Machine Discord. But
Um,
that's yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say I think a few other people like that comic that you made too,
Yeah, I was really
huh?
surprised how much it blew up on Reddit. So I'll note that here in a minute. I can probably just open that up here actually. So I'll go to, this is the Reddit post itself. It got almost 5,000 upvotes. And the thing about this is that, like, this is an artist centric space. When you're talking about Artish comics, you are allowed to post AI imagery here, but, and here's the big but, AI imagery is oftentimes downvoted pretty heavily because it's considered low effort to just post generated, memes. You're not supposed to post memes here. You're supposed to create original content. And this is, at least the, how I look at it, is me setting the bar for AI imagery of what is deemed acceptable, as in you can't even tell really. And I'm not trying to like hide it from people by posting, I'm not like labeling it as AI or anything like that, because it's not relevant. This comic is not about AI. It's just my medium of choice in order to, to tell this story. The reception that I got was fantastic. I really enjoyed this entire chain here. So I'd want to kind of go through here, and I'll post this to into the VC text here, the original image that I started with here, because the GIF kind of goes a bit fast. You can't really see exactly what's happening. Let's say, because you can see here, you already start to see that the comic is largely finished at this point. Like there's a level of consistency that we're getting here. But if I scroll back on all these generated images here, so this was the image injected version of it, where you can see that I have a level of consistency of some of the characters, but they're not, it's just not there. It's kind of it's a mess for the character on the right and all that. But if I double back to the original image I injected Sage's art into, we actually can see that this is really where I got inspired for the idea of it, where my original prompt was just funny webcomic her blonde. Okay. I am cycling through all different versions of what Midjourney might think a funny webcomic looks like. Okay. With a blonde girl as the subject. And I didn't even re-roll this one. I was just happy with that third one because I was like, look, I want to have something for demo today. So I was like, oh, I like that. That's a fun idea. Let's look at this. Okay, so there's a coffee cup, they're talking over coffee, and I noticed the expression in her that was a bit like, sad. Maybe off put or whatever. The thing is that expression is continuous as I did the injection. So let's talk about character injection for a moment, because I feel like I have to catch some folks up on that really quick. So whenever you're you prep your characters, you create what is called like a character sheet, right? Which is essentially just like a full body turnaround and various different expressions. And my first two streams here were all focused on that, on how to create continuous characters. And so you're more than welcome to check that out on my YouTube channel. But at the latter end of this, we're going to start doing that hands-on. So if you're a little confused about what I mean by image injection and stuff, or character injection, we'll get to examples of that here in a bit. But the jump that happens between the original image, which is right here, to the injected version, which is right here, that injected version is suddenly looks like Sage, because I'm basing it off of the reference images. This is what Sage looks like before, like this is what I'm injecting into the comics in order to make Sage look like the way she is and behave the way that I expect her to behave. They don't really look like her, right? But they do have this expression and this goofiness and fun to it, that the range of emotions is what I was looking for. So having these expressions all available at the latter end of your URLs means that you really get this kind of range out of it. And I was mostly making sure that what I was liking about the generated image that I got was persistent when I did the injection. So when I, here's the injected version of it. Now, if I kind of hop back up here real quick, this is actually the version of it where I did the injection, and you can see where if I picked any of the other three, the one I picked was the bottom left here. If I picked any of the other three, they wouldn't really be nearly as on model as the third one is. And this is just a matter of re-rolling. So like if I was not happy with any of these, I would just scroll back up and then inject John Oliver with cabbages. I would just inject again into this. So if I, for example, hit the re-roll button on this, what's going to happen is I will not get this result again, because the re-roll doesn't actually go back and do the injection again. It just takes whatever is in the prompt here and runs it again. So this is really where most people slip up. They're like, why am I not able to make, have continuity of the stuff I'm injecting into, or I'm putting URLs into? It's all because people are relying too heavily on the reroll button. And you can see I kind of experimented with a couple of different panel layouts first, because I wasn't really too sure what I wanted to do. So this is variation subtle, while this is variation strong. And although the models look much nicer in terms of like, the it feels more like a TV show or like a Netflix quality cartoon. That isn't a webtoon. You know what I mean? This doesn't it's very pretty, but when you talk about like the kind of level of effort that's being replicated with this, I was more aiming for this. I was more aiming for that hand drawn aesthetic. While this feels more like a production, like something where I've taken snippets of a much bigger, more expensive thing to make than this. So if I posted one of these comics onto, R Dash Comics, I would probably get called out for being, you know, kind of too high effort, basically. Um, so judging your audience is incredibly important, and I do that every time I post. I promise. I have to like kind of gauge myself on that. So, but yeah, I got some fun results out of this though. You can see I even like thought about like putting Victor in there and just kind of like have a pan injection of that. But it's just, you have to kind of gauge the kind of quality that you're aiming for. This is much more closer of what I was aiming for than trying to say like an overproduced kind of thing. This is very overproduced. So being aware of your audience in that regard is important, especially right now. I think this will change over time. But what I'm looking for, and I'm just gonna stop scrolling with my mouse wheel here and try to actually dig into this really quick. But before I really get into the actual in painting process and we start doing this, I am curious to hear from you guys. What sort of stuff we should be doing. I'm trying. I think the way that I'm gonna be painting this out is that we'll do like a tutorial heavy stream one week and then a workshop heavy stream the next week, where I'm more trying to play around with your all's ideas on one week and then playing around with the stuff I've learned another week, if that sounds cool with you guys. You always want to hear back. So I have something here called the black box, where you can submit your characters, and essentially it just lets me have like a nice library of community made creations that let these characters will be able to expand on and explore. I'll pull up one of the comics we made before at some point as well. But this sort of like collaborative storytelling is probably the most exciting part of all this for me, because it means that not only can I make a comic like this, but also you all can come in and continue it for me while I pass out and eat food or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just the idea of these kind of spontaneous sort of spin-offs basically is 100% possible. And you're all welcome to take Sage or Victor or any of my characters and also do the same thing. Like you can, tell your own versions of the stories that I'm telling. Like it's all good. I'm all down for that. Um, it is based off of me and my wife. Sage particularly is someone who I oftentimes am listening to my wife's suggestions of, like, how to rewrite, and she's like, her input on this comic was pretty important. Just because like I really needed to kind of hone in the exact wording in order. So like you're drinking decaf, right? Was a line from her changing my original line, which is, what is it? Something along the lines of once I'm happy with an idea, especially when it comes from her, I'm like, okay, no, I erased everything in my mind about what it was before, and now it's this. It's so much better. But the reason why her input is important is because it's a female character, and her experiences as a woman is much more valid than coming from me. It's a group effort in that regard. The main thing I want you guys to kind of take away from this, though, and this is going to be my biggest note of caution about this, is that you can get a comic that looks really, really close or is really funny, right? But it's gonna not necessarily be as funny to someone who is expecting to consume like a traditionally drawn comic. Okay, so like if you basically make something here and you find it like really funny and you want to post this to Reddit as your own thing, right? My only note of caution is to please take the time to clean it up, right? Please take the time to make it look good, because you all have the contextual knowledge that this is generated imagery. So that means that any sort of subtle error or problem is kind of like accepted because we know that there's always a chance that there's going to be some muddliness here and there. But for the average person that is on Reddit or on any of these like coffee or other, comic websites, they aren't expecting there to be any generated imagery at all. They're expecting hand-drawn comics by artists. So either you're going to put disclaimers on it and say, look at this generated thing that I made, take it out, check it out, and maybe you won't, you won't get some negative attention for that. But the reality is that if you take the time and you actually make them look good and you make sure that there's like, consistency, then you're going to be fine posting this kind of stuff. I just really put that caution out there that if you're going to post generated imagery, you really, really want to take the time to make it look like a humanly made thing, because then it is humanly made at that point, because you've put that transformative effort behind it. So these are all just patterns. What we're essentially exploiting here today, I'm going to jump back over to the couch to really explain this here, because it's important since it's relevant to this comic. What we're exploiting here is the repeating behavioral patterns of comic artists. Okay? So essentially, there are certain patterns of the way people react to things, like the way characters will react, that most oftentimes, like, it's very common for the last panel of a character frame to be kind of disgruntled or otherwise frustrated, or being like whatever, like kind of how Victor is this VTuber model, that sort of like deadpan face. That's very common as the final panel. You'll see that so often in indie webcomics and stuff, that it notices patterns like that and it will start to replicate those patterns. And at least for me anyway, I don't really see anything wrong with that, because that's what you're naturally doing with whenever you're thinking up of a comic or of a story, you're following the patterns from other storytellers in the past too. The most of the like amateur artist stuff that I see is in some ways a fan art or a recreation of an existing joke. Something that it's either they know or they don't know that they've seen before, and they are telling it in their own way. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I don't see anything wrong with AI doing that either. The thing about it, though, is that this is a cheat code. Like this gives you a massive leg up when it comes to being reactive and talking about especially modern problems. Like if I wanted to complain about, say like Musk does some stupid thing with Twitter tomorrow, I could have an entire graphic novel finished by the end of the day of Musk doing that dumb thing, and it's just no artist could ever keep up with that ever. So when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I'm very conscious of the fact that if I'm going to put something out there, it's going to be a finished piece of work. It's not going to be something that I just generated and I was happy with and then I put out there. I want it to feel like it's mine. I want to be able to take the time and really own that piece of art, because the stuff that we're generating here is fun, but it's imagery. It's not art. We need to be able to actually make it art. And to do that with the in-painting tools and all that, it's a lot of fun. And it gets us a lot closer to a true expression of art. But man, you really want to be aware of not just the fact that like most of these comics are much funnier to us because we're making them, as opposed, it's kind of like I've heard people describe AI imagery as like explaining your dreams. Like it's super interesting to you, but then to other people, they're like, can you please stop? Like, I really don't want to hear about your amazing adventure with a goose for like half an hour. Like, like you have the same sort of reactions. So take the time, make them look good, make them look right, put your damn name on it, and then move it on, and then put it out there. Okay?
I'm going to say it feels unfair that people don't want to hear about my dreams.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. My wife is a vivid dreamer, and I'm not. It's just I'm one of those people that when they go to bed, they have a thought. When they wake up, that thought is continued. I know that's rare. So like when I go to sleep, and I have like I was thinking about either a graphic novel idea or like something funny to say, I will literally wake up my wife at the beginning of the day and be like, look, I thought of this funny joke, because my brain will just put a pause on it, and I don't dream much. And so my wife, on the other hand, she goes through like entire lives when she goes to sleep. Like it's I can't even imagine the mental stress of dealing with, like, I just went through an entire relationship, a plane crash, the best fillet you've ever eaten. Like all those experiences happened for her all over one night, and I'm just like, I think I just barely did anything. Like it's super hard for me to remember dreams. And so yeah, I like hearing hers, but I only have so much patience for other people's, honestly, Kinky. It is something where it's like, especially when people get into symbolism, I'm like, dude, your brain's just regurgitating things. It's doing the same thing the AI is doing.
I got some
It's just
bad news for you.
regurgitating
I have
ideas.
about 3 hours of dreams I was going to tell you about today.
Oh, I don't have time for that.
Are you sure? Because like I feel like you're going to really relate to them.
And I feel like it's going to be this great Hollywood pitch someday. Like, like it's not uncommon for people to like to assume that, like, because they really enjoyed it, everyone else is going to enjoy it, right? Like they don't understand why market research is a thing. It's a thing because people like different things for different reasons, right? And when it comes to, like, I don't know, dream imagery, especially dreamscapes, which is, I feel like, the most common phrasing I see online describing the like just the act of using AI imagery to explore places. Um, those dreamscapes, I think, is probably the most apropos sort of name that we have for it, because we really don't. This is this like culmination of ideas. This kind of, and I say the word regurgitated a lot because it's, I personally, that word is the most like palpable word for the artist crowd. They really like hearing it when I say that. Oh yeah, look at all this regurgitated art. They love hearing it when I say it like that. Because it relates to the idea of what I'm talking about when it comes to dreaming. A lot of the stuff that we kind of cycle through when we sleep and whatnot is these sort of experiences and smells and other things that we've had through the day, week, year, life, whatever, and they're all just kind of neurons firing at random. And depending on how vivid of a dreamer you are is how much you control those neurons firing, I guess. And I'm speaking from like a hyper layman sort of artist perspective here, but that's the way I look at it. I look at it as artificial dreaming or artificial imagination, and that seems to be at least a decent entry point when you talk about especially hardline, like, anti-AI people, is just to be like, look, I'm not trying to convince you to use it. I would actually rather you not use it, because I don't want to see your style change. I don't want to see you do whatever. Like, a lot of people, at least when I'm talking to them directly, the
Fine.
traditional artist crowd, they're going to be very, very much like that. So
Fine, I won't make you listen to my dreams, but will you at least look at my comic that I made for you?
oh yeah, yes, please. So yeah, I guess the thing I just really wanted to emphasize, though, is that, like, this sort of like cheat code for making comics and stuff isn't the only thing that's needed in order to to really be able to establish yourself as like a new, I guess it would be an AI cartoonist. That's, I was called that by the mods of Ardash Comics, that I was the only AI cartoonist on Reddit, and I've really taken to heart on that phrasing. But I also want to take into like recognition that it is something that I'm currently exploring the limits of. I don't really know what those limits are, and I want to be able to um basically not be like a big old negative to people that are on that, because like I said, this is a cheat code. I'm aware of the limits and the rules of these subreddits, particularly artist subreddits. If it says do not post AI content, listen to those rules. If like, yes, they might not be able to tell that it's AI generated. That's true. But Ardash Comics allows AI generated imagery. That's why I post there. It's not because I'm trying to skirt the rules. I'm not going on to Ardash Art and then posting AI generated imagery there. So yeah, I guess the thing I'm trying to emphasize here is that like if you pick the right venue and you know the audience, then you're much more likely to do well doing this kind of thing. But as for being the quote unquote AI cartoonist of Reddit, I really would rather look at it as a new tool, a new medium, and the only thing I'm relying on is my previous experience making comics, making stories, doing filmmaking, that kind of stuff, to be able to really flesh these things out. Instead of, you could tell an amateur because they post something that looks rough with sketching or drawing or anything. The same thing's going to go for AI imagery, but now there's a lot of things that look finished. Like there will be elements of the image that look really nice. I'll pull up an example here. So let's just look at this one here real quick. You notice that the anatomy of the guy is like super weird here, right? That would be the most obvious tell. But there's another, in my opinion, even bigger tell that's here, which is the trees. The trees are so repetitive in the way that they're drawn, and they're really fleshed out. Like they're really well composited and cleaned up. There's even gradients inside of them. But then the characters have so little effort applied to them. No artist would do this. Like no artist would put so much tender loving care into minor background details, but then their main character looks like crap. Like that these are tells or signs that people will need to learn. To tell what is generated and what isn't. So, yeah.
Big iron, big iron.
I will say that obviously like if the creator of King of the Hill, the guy who made Beavis and Butthead and stuff, for some reason I'm blanking on his name all of a sudden, Mike Judge. If Mike Judge says like, hey, I don't like this, this is not cool to like share this kind of stuff and whatnot, I would respect him personally, but at the same time, like I also understand why people would be like, hey, I'm just putting this out there. I'm just sharing it. It's that kind of thing. I don't want to like say yay or nay on that. I just really enjoyed this. I just really liked this. And I don't think this hurts anybody because it's like, the show isn't airing anymore. It's not like there's anything being taken away from the popularity of King of the Hill. They're not losing money because some guy made a AI version of the song,
If anything, it's a reminder of them.
Right. It just brings the show back to relevance. So I don't see, people being upset about it. In fact, I would hope the creators of these things really enjoy this kind of stuff because it's just super cool to,
Yes,
at least
they
to
do. They're
me.
cool guys.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think here's the amazing thing about this. Okay. I need to point this out. They did the entire album. They didn't just do that song. It's the entire Gunfighter's Ballad like album. So like if you go to this person's channel, it's like they do entire albums. They don't do just like individual songs. So like if you want to find the entire Hank Hill version of that album, you can do that. The at AI Music 97 on YouTube. I'll post the link here. And there you go. So that's
For
that's
everyone
the
that wants me to sing during office hours, feel free to try to convince them to do that with my voice. I have explicitly allowed it.
There you go. Yeah, I love that. I love the folks that are like, here is the AI generated like formula for me. You could just go nuts, please. I honestly think this is the future of licensing, where you can basically be like, here's a micro license to my my voice, my characters, my whatever, and maybe it costs like $1, maybe it costs $5, but it's all donations. It's all basically like, yeah, you could steal it, you could go to another website and find it for free, but if you want to support the person behind it, right, then you can give them money for it. And when you talk about comics in particular, I think this is where we can start to see some pretty exciting potential of saying like, look, I have a comic that I made on Reddit. People like the characters and stuff, and maybe they want to tell their own. For $5, I'll give you all the links. I'll give you all that. I don't do that myself, but I think that's where we're going. Where a lot of this stuff, especially with character continuity being a thing, character packs, basically. I want to. If I'm the guy who brings character packs to the modern artists, we might actually convince a few of them to do it because it means direct monetization through AI imagery.
Right.
You know, that's where that's I've been arguing that for months of saying like I want to see creative people like excited to see generated versions of their comics, particularly using animation, you know, AI animation. Midjourney doesn't currently output any video. There's a couple other ones I won't mention here right now, that let you be able to input Midjourney imagery into it and then generate animations out of it. But I definitely want to stay focused on Midjourney with these streams. So it is something great to see all this kind of like birthing of crossovers basically that comes out of the music. And this is why my comic series Beyond the Valley is focused on music. There's so many lyrics that are taken for the series specifically to address a lot of the concerns that people had in the late 90s and early 2000s about digital music and where the music industry was moving. There's so many parallels you can make today to how artists feel about AI imagery. They are two different beasts. You can't make perfect parallels with it, but it is certainly a parallel to make. So the reason why I tend not to do Niji is because I am looking for a more Western art style. This is coming from experience of going on the comics and Reddit and all that kind of stuff. Basically, I had a lot of people going, I'm just not really used to seeing anime when I wake up in the morning. Like when I remember I had a comment that was like that. That was like, I'm just not used to seeing fully fleshed out anime cartoons when I wake up in the morning. I want to watch, I
That
want to
makes
look at like,
sense.
right. And so like the context of your audience matters incredibly when you talk about trying to make a like trying to adapt a platform. Okay. So like if I post like any of these really, like, especially the top right one where there's so much shading and dramatic lighting and stuff like that, they're gonna think that you took that from an anime. Like they're gonna think that you snipped it from like a screenshot from your favorite anime and then made a comic on top of it. That is no different than a meme at that point, right? So in order for you to be a cartoonist, you need to actually cartoon. You need to actually tell people like this is my dramatic storytelling here. And the closest one that I would say would work for that is actually the top left one here. And the reason being is that on the top left, there's not a lot of character deviation. It has the kind of like fun sort of like, you know, multiple expressions that are on there, but there isn't a lot of background noise that's causing it to look very overproduced. There is some overproduction, but not too much. And if you pick just a white background, you're oftentimes going to do better. I definitely am a big fan of anyone that's a content creator, anyone that's putting original content out there. It doesn't have to be AI. In fact, I really would only label your AI stuff as AI if if there's like some sort of conflict of interest that it's in there. Like for example, if you are posting to an artist sub or artist group, you really probably should post AI in there if they don't allow AI, right? Just be like, look, I'm going to see if I can get through with this. I'm just going to let you know that this is AI and we're going to go from there. But if it's simply a tool in your toolbox of existing, workflow, then I don't worry about it at all. I don't see a point of referring to it. It literally only hinders the popularity of what I do. So, but there's one major thing I guess that I do follow, and this is I guess the almost as important as listening to the rules, is that a lot of them have frequency limits, as in you can only upload to them so many times in a day, so many times in a week. For R Comics, because I have a pretty good feeling that a few of you guys are going to be cocky and try to immediately post some of these comics onto that subreddit. I'm just going to tell you right now that one, that's a dick move. I'm just going to tell you straight up that that's not cool to do, because it just means that it's clutter for a mod to have to clean up later. But the second thing is, and this is the important one, your account can only upload twice a week on that subreddit. So if you upload more than that, you're going to get banned. If you upload content that's not yours, you're going to get banned. Things like that. Follow the damn rules and you'll be fine. but I'm just emphasizing here that a lot of the comics that we're generating here right now need to have the human touch for it to qualify. And that is not exactly an easy thing to do. Like for example, for our little like monster dude that we got earlier and whatnot, there's so many things that I would want to tweak and fix before I'm 100% happy with this, but this is very close already. I would mostly fix how he's holding the remote. I would definitely fix the characters, like the human characters in this. There is a level of awkwardness from the way that they're like these two guys shouldn't be just blank smiling at each other. There should be dialogue. There should be movement that's happening here.
And
Yeah.
that place means a lot to Victor, so please don't mess around on it. If you enjoy his content,
Yeah, I would hate to have
don't poop
myself
where
be like
Victor
the
eats,
source of a bunch of like nasty comments and stuff like that. I would much rather, and frankly, I mean, I'll be honest, y'all, like when it comes to creative spaces, these are a lot of these people, even when they're amateurs, they have more experience than you do. And that experience is really obvious when you start talking to people. So if you're going on there and pretending to be an artist, like it's going to be a problem. Now, you are an artist if you drew over your generated imagery. That's 100%. You transformed that. You made that into something new. But if you're going to just go onto those subreddits, especially the creative subs, and essentially just be like, haha, I can do this in 2 seconds now, you're not my friend. Like, yeah, I'm just telling you right off the bat. There's a lot of people who have reached out to me who have said like, hey man, thank you so much for being a big activist for AI art. And we really like how you're showing it to the artists. And I'm just like, you know what, man? No, you're an ass. You're an ass for acting like that, and you're not at
Yep.
all being a supporter of human beings. Like understand that this whole anti-artist argument is nonsense. It is
It's
all of it is
disgusting to me,
it's
honestly.
just gross. And what it comes out of is jealousy of craft. That's all that it is people being, look what I can do now. I am so ignorant about what makes good art that I'm telling you that this is art. Like this is that just pisses me off, honestly. When I get so many of these messages too from AI users that are like, yeah, show you sticking it to them, and I'm just like, okay, guys, all right. I know that this is a technocentric crowd. There's a lot of tech bros, right, that are part of this group and stuff like that. And you all really just need to like pick up a pencil. Number one meme that really, really irks me is the pick it up meme. It is the meme of the Puss in Boots wolf that I see AI users sharing. That one drives me nuts because it's like I would much rather all the artists that I love don't change their styles just because they want to incorporate generated imagery. I would much rather them just
Yeah.
not be assholes to people who do it. That's it.
All right, so first we have Tina C asking. Well, first Celeste wants to know if we can work the MJ boat into this.
Yeah, yes, the sailboat. Oh yeah, of course. I try to put the sailboat in a couple of my stuff.
Nice. Then we have Tina C3 says, question. When you in-paint, do you add the prompt or remove some of the prompt and then add? What are you looking for? Will this change the whole image by removing the whole prompt in-paint?
Well, it does not change the whole image. It'll actually it still bleeds the image around it. This is one of the reasons why in-painting is not as reliable as people want it to be, is because it's not going to act like a photo bash. It's not going to basically highlight, select the face, and swap the face out. It's going to be a lot more, as I guess I can call it radioactive. Radiative. It essentially everything around from what you select in the in-painting is far more likely to influence the final result. So you don't have to really worry about including every detail in the prompt or whatever. You can get away with a lot just by in painting with basic descriptors. I use pronouns because I want the characters to repeat based on their gender or whatever, but I don't really need to emphasize that the dad has a mustache until his mustache is gone, and then I'll just change the in painting prompt to include a mustache. So I'm very reactive with the way I'm doing things.
Okay. SR Volley says, both are so rare, Alien and Meteor, that we had the lucky to have them coming at the same time and hitting each other.
Yes, and I think that's where the source of the humor. Like, if you wanted to make a proper joke out of that, you could make it that they being like, "Oh my God, we're it's so special that we're alive for this moment, for when humanity can finally meet," and then boom, it's blown up by an asteroid, and we're like, "Oh no," like I think that's funny.
And then Tina C says, that's very true. It's a cheat code. Max says, dude, same. I feel no dream, just building up, hibernating, and then restarting Windows 10. And then I showed you
I
my
get the Windows
original.
95 startup sound for me. So
Yes. Bing, 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 bing. Alive also says, I do that too. For me, it happens when my dreams sometimes start happening in a way that makes me remember the thing I was thinking of. I fell asleep, as if I was thinking something before I slept. And then it went to dream, and then returned to continue thinking of the same thing. And then Ancient Chaos tells me not to tell you about my dreams, prompt my dreams.
Yes,
Hypnosis
please prompt your
says,
dreams.
I'm rolling in this big donut, and there's a snake wearing a vest, and then Hypnosis was answering a question from somebody else. I'm not really sure how to present that. But then you had another question. Zala, are the questions on your website AI generated?
The questions on my website. What questions? I'm sorry.
I mean,
The comics.
are the comics on your
Oh,
website
the comics.
AI generated?
Yes. The comics are all generated content. Everything is. Anything that has Victor's name on it is generated content, and they have paint overs. They have things to clean things up. Sometimes more traditional than the other. But here's the thing about particularly the Beyond the Valley series. As that series goes on, I draw less and less and less. The entire comic is set in the fourth wall. So that means that like I am not talking to like characters or anything. I'm talking directly to artists when I make these things. And so when I started on episode 1 of Beyond the Valley, it was all like I basically generated backgrounds and then sketched on top of like very, very bad looking versions of Victor in order to bring him back using traditional art methods, digital art methods. But then as I kept going, I literally explain while I am making the art how I am doing it. And we just kind of go on from there. But yeah, everything that's on the website is generated.
Awesome. Bob says Amazon used AI for an ad for their upcoming Fallout TV show. Tons of errors.
Oh God.
Very sloppy.
God. Very, very bad. Very bad. And this is the kind of stuff that is inevitable, frankly, is the fact that corporate use of AI imagery is going to make it really, really mediocre to consume corporate media. It's because they have to pick the bottom dollar. Like, understand, I worked in entertainment for years. The number one thing that's the hardest thing to do is to fight for a budget, is to fight for money, right?
Yeah.
Just to get the money that's necessary to pay for the staff to produce a good show. And that does not bode well for the Fallout show that they're using generated imagery in their promotional ads, because it means that if that's the first thing they expect people to see to want to watch their stuff and it's full of errors, then I can't even imagine what the show's going to be like. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, what does that say about the artist that actually did it?
Right. And like a lot of people are like, you couldn't, like I saw a tweet that was like, you couldn't even hire one artist. And I'm like, well, they did hire an artist. It just was a really crappy one. Who clearly doesn't have an artistic eye necessary to clean it up. I saw Sai
Maybe
ask
he was
something.
trying to disparage the use of AI, like undercover.
Maybe
I
it's
hope
just
that's what
kind
he
of
was
like,
trying to do, because that's what he achieved.
Yeah, the thing is that like, I tried to not take the whole like AI argument stuff personally, because I do AI imagery doesn't mean that like when someone is critical of AI that I should feel emotional enough to respond to it. But like I definitely take into account though the fact that like I have to clarify to people like, look, that's not AI's fault. That's a bad artist's fault. That, you know what I mean? Like they might have been able to use AI imagery and do it well, but if you noticed it, they did it wrong. That's really all it is. You can't be in the visual effects industry and your effects be obvious. Like that's you did a good job when no one knows what you did. That's the role of the visual effects artist, is when no one knows that you what you did was done to the film, that means you did a great job. And it can be a little disheartening, honestly, because people don't recognize your work because they literally don't see it. The Wolf on Wall Street is probably my best example I can give you, where that movie is largely CG, y'all. It doesn't look like it, but that's a CG movie. It's a live action movie set in the 80s. You know what I mean? And it was all because we had to modernize the cities and remove all those city elements, or modern city elements, which is a lot of work.
It is. I believe that. Zelverio says, wouldn't it be better to just design the background separate from the character, especially since it's going to be gaffs and not actual anime?
Absolutely. Now, I'm doing this as a demonstration of in painting, right? For like little faces and changes and stuff, especially for people that want to just match the art styles and stuff. But the traditional method of working with a layered approach of essentially saying, here are the characters, I have them now. Here are and we'll get into that here in a bit. But essentially, when it comes to building the actual final comic, you're really just making the panels. You're just making the assets that are needed for you to tell the story. The more often than not, I have like a dozen bad versions of the comic that are kind of scattered and all over the place on different generated imagery, and then I smother them all together into one. And we'll get into that here in a bit.
Cool. Sai's asking if you have any advice for developing your artistic eye.
All right. So, do anything that involves traditional arts at all. Like you really need to be able to have hands-on experience with a lot of traditional tools, a lot of traditional mediums, in order to know like what makes a good charcoal piece, for example. Like, like it's one thing just to put a bunch of charcoal on canvas and be like, look at this smattering of black stuff. But it's a completely other one to go like, I am making a chiaroscuro of this, madame in distress. You know what I mean? Like when you have all the intention, you can see it. You can see that in the work. It's not just a bunch of smatherings of black, smears on a canvas. So like, yeah, I think it really just comes down to hands-on experience. The generative stuff is not it's the cheat code to making things. It's not a cheat code for experience. It's not a cheat code for skill. You'll gain some skills from doing generative stuff. You will not gain nearly as much as you can with the 10,000 hours though. You need 10,000 hours.
Then I slipped my comic in there because I'm a brat. And then Hypnosis says, yes, totally, that's important. In painting looks at the image as a whole influence before it starts cooking the changes within your selection region. Broadcast Babe has a hot tip.
Ooh.
Hot tip. Stumbled upon resetting the selected region to begin with. Begin again. It maintains the steps, especially in additive lasso, to get back to 0. The reset button is the curly reverse arrow in the top left corner.
Ah, okay. Cool. So okay, yeah. So I'll check that out. I mean, it's a stumbling upon reason. Yeah, main thing is that with at least for in painting, I am more often going through different generative imagery. So like, for example, on Sage's comic here, let's take this panel for example. You can notice here that he's not holding the coffee cup, like he's holding a lid to it, which was my inspiration to just draw in the the cup itself. So that's a drawn element of where I go, I don't want, like, this is already so close. The only thing I need to draw is boop, boop, and then fill it in. And then then I had my coffee cup. I changed some color correction here to make it so that the cup is the right color. And you'll notice this happens a lot, where you'll have neighboring colors start swapping and whatnot. So the lid of the coffee cup became the base of the coffee, or the cup itself. So that's a simple fix in Photoshop, blah, blah, blah. But the hand here, you see the hand, he's missing a hand, first off. And there's another hand that's pointed here, but it's not really descriptive of what, and it also feels very directive. Like he feels more like a boss talking to her. more talking down to her almost because of that one little finger movement. But if I hit now very region on that original one, you're going to see that the hand is where I selected. That is my selection that I made on there. I could always hit the back button and change that again, but every time I do that now, it'll no longer save that in-painted region. So I need to like either remember that that's where I drew it and put it back if I do make changes, or better yet, and this is kind of what I'm emphasizing here, is just to run it again, like literally just to say, variation subtle, and then start, trying to repiece maybe a complete alternative to the comic. That is another way to do it. But yeah, I mean, exploring all sorts of stuff that you can do within painting is great, and we're going to get into that here in a bit too. So
Save some more questions for later, or do you want to keep going?
no, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right, Celeste says practice/learn art as often as you can. Personally, I like to use sketch pads and have them all over my home, in my bags, etc. Keep learning as
Good.
you go. You'll soon develop a better artistic eye. If
Yeah.
you want resources and recommendations, she will help. Leafy5 has a question. Do you think we should be... Oh, it just started scrolling. Hold on. Do you think we should be calling out our own work that uses AI if we do put in the extra effort to make it look good? So far, I've been trying to be overly transparent, even when AI is only used on a small part of my projects. I worry that it's harming my reach.
Yes, and it is. Frankly, it is. The thing is about this is that this is very venue specific. Okay, so like, there's no reason to talk about your AI imagery that's used inside of your work if it's simply a tool that's used to do it, right? Like to just to make it. Now, the problem with that is that what it does though is it makes assumptions. It makes assumptions about your abilities. It makes assumptions about about who you are and what sort of just in general what sort of content you're going to be able to put out there. If someone follows and subscribes to you, it's because they're expecting more of the same. They're not expecting a random smattering of different images from you. Okay. So like I had to essentially establish a like a theme or a style to myself in order to be able to do it. Now, Midjourney style is not my own necessarily. It's become a lot more of my own, but Midjourney's quote unquote comic style is this kind of like loose, largely high contrast black line work with a lot of color and stuff in it that is there. But in terms of identifying it as my own, I only do that after I have it sufficiently becomes the characters that I've established. You can tell when there's so much diversity in the kind of stuff you're sharing if someone is using generated content, right? Like, okay, I am a newbie. I just really like the pictures that I'm sharing. I'm going to just put them all on my Instagram and see what kind of reaction I get. That you're probably going to get nothing, not much at all, because why would someone follow you for a random string of images? They're going to follow you because they like you. They like your personality. They like who you are. They like the characters that you've put invested time into. So, when I guess to answer that question about whether or not like the AI imagery is helping or hurting, it's hurting, but it's hurting you because there's a nasty kind of toxicity that's in the world right now. And they don't like the idea of you using these new tools because they think that you're like actively trying to steal from other artists. And the truth of the matter is that by you posting that generated content that might be completely random or otherwise not representatory of yourself, you are stealing a spot away from another person who might be an up and coming traditional artist. Is that bad or good? I'm not going to say one way or the other, but you are taking up another slot of the people submitting stuff that day and adding to the data pollution that we're going to be dealing with here soon. But is that something that I fault you for? Not at all. I'm just saying that the reaction of that is usually pretty negative as long as there is no style consistency, if there's no character consistency. This is why character continuity is so important for Midjourney, because it means that you'll be able to not only create amazing looking pieces of imagery, but you'll be, more importantly, be able to have identity inside of those imagery. you'll be able to have characters that move around dynamically and in ways that people want to see, not just, hey, here's a cool guy in space with a space helmet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the number of astronauts that I see inside of prompts is kind of mind numbing. It's almost as bad as the hands meme, where like, you just, I don't want to care about a character's face, so I'm just going to put the helmet on them, or I'm just going to put goggles on them. But what you've done is you've removed all the emotional communication from your character. There's a reason why Pedro Pascal doesn't like the Mandalorian role, is because he literally is wasted as an actor in that role. He has to wear a
So
damn
is too.
helmet. I mean, like it. Think of it that way. Think of it as like you're Pedro Pascal in a Mandalorian, and you need to like you want to take the helmet off. Like you really need to show off who you really are. That's really where when it comes to sharing this stuff, when it comes to identifying yourself as AI imagery, all that kind of stuff, don't lie to people. If they ask you how you made it, just say how you made it. But if you over label, put too many disclaimers, say that it's AI, no one's really going to see it because there's so much negative connotation about it right now. I just think about expectations. That's all.
All right. I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to wait for 2 seconds while you answer it. Inspiration after looking at so many images over the day is very challenging. Do you ever struggle with visual overstimulation? I tend
Yes.
to start to second guess myself.
Yeah. So I feel like this is part of probably the hardest part of having a traditionally creative mindset and then getting into generative imagery. Been doing this for over a year now, and there's a point where you get burnout with generated imagery. That burnout can be like essentially like I have generated the same image or the same prompt 10,000 times, and I have no idea which one of those I want to keep. And I say that with a bit of exaggeration there, but I just say that the burnout side of it happens because I tried to save everything I made, honestly. When I stopped caring about saving everything that I liked, everything got a lot easier because I know it's there for now, like all the archives and stuff like that. I can always double back and go look at it. But I feel so confident with how I make things now that if I need it, I just remake it. Like understand that this is the holy grail of deciding whether or not you can really make it as an artist. If you can draw something and then crumple it up and throw it away, then you've made a major accomplishment that day. Just because there's a you can always draw it again, then and you will draw it again. That's the key thing, is that like if you put less emotional weight behind what you're putting on a paper, you're going to draw a lot better over time because you're able to just move on to the next thing much faster. And the same thing is for generative imagery.
Max says, thanks for the tutorials. He's going to follow you on social.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for
Um,
following.
is there a parameter to generate just a single image for the very region result rather than a full
Oh.
grid of similars?
Uh
Hypnosis
No.
says no.
yeah.
And I think that's the last question. Hypnosis says, Victor's cool. I love this. Great insights, man.
Oh well, thank you so much. I will say that me being a popped collar VTuber helps when it comes to the cool factor. Like I purposely made myself kind of like a certain level of like confident cringe. Like I was like that's where that's where my balance is here. Is like okay, I definitely enjoy some like cringy levels of humor and music and other things like that. That works. And honestly, that word is overused in itself, but it is something that I'm like, okay, I'll look at me being a d bag with my popped collar and how suave my main character looks. Like, yeah, I'm leaning into all that, guys. Like, it's a conscious decision, and when you make conscious decisions with intent,
Hey,
it
if you
plays
got it,
out.
you got it, man. You got it. Love it.
Hey, someone's following me. Hey, thank you, that salty box. I appreciate that. That was my Twitch notification. That when someone follows me, it actually when I'm streaming on Twitch, it'll yell the word "kitty" when you see the dog. So that's just my kind of humor.
Leafy replied to you about the thing about using letting people know that his stuff is AI. He said, I haven't yet learned this lesson. I have like one more and half of my hard drive full of AI images that I'll never use, but I generated them and I'm a hoarder, so I can't just delete them.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, man. Especially with where this technology is going, you will not be able to save this stuff locally. It's just, there's just going to be too much. Instead of it, if you look at it as a tool to where like, oh, I created this really cool image that I can like kind of imagine it back, you might be able to get away. At least this is how I do it. Okay. What saved my sanity when it came to this stuff, one is to use the web app. So if I swap over to my browser here, also I got to say this to AC, you should be surprised by the number of people who do not know that this website exists. The fact that you can just get all the images that you've made, that you've generated, right? And I've got some fun stuff in terms of filmmaking that we'll get into on a future stream. But if we come up to archive here, okay, and you have a complete timeline of everything you've generated that's in here. It might take a bit to load. It says the API seems to be having troubles. It always says that, at least lately. And if you give it a little bit of time, it will load everything here. And I've had a lot of luck. And I'm not going to click on any of these because I don't know if we're just going to randomly get something I really shouldn't stream. But it is very important to have this archive that you can like dig into and pull. But here's the thing I like about it the most. I can go into any one of these. Like this is one of my in-painted ones where I replaced Victor with one of the panels. And that's what I was trying to find earlier, was saying, look, you can now highlight, select an area, take a different character reference sheet and inject them. And now you have two people in the frame. Okay. But the thing is now I can scroll down here, find the prompt that I used, and just copy that, right? Then I try to remake this. Or you can come into here and hit open in Discord. And then it's going to open the original prompt back up to where you can re-roll it. That way you don't have to save everything on hard drives. The last thing I'll kind of note on this though is that if you're really having trouble finding like something really old, like something from like, a year ago or half a year ago, you can come back to Discord here. As long as you're in the server that you were in, the search function will actually let you find your old prompts. Okay, so I'm on my private Discord. It won't work nearly. It'll take forever. It'll lag a lot if you try this on the Midjourney Discord. You really should be running your own Discord to save your, like a library of images for yourself. But if I now say black shirt, because I know that that's a common prompting that I'm doing in order to generate Victor, I can effectively pull up Victor very easily in history from doing that. And look, I have 97 freaking pages of just black shirt in my prompt. And it lets me be able to hone that in a bit more. So like say, I'm trying to think of an example that won't get me in trouble. Let's see here. Yeah, like if I do like brunette, I am going to get all the brunettes that I had generated earlier, right? It's just a matter of using the search function to really act as your backup library, and running your own Discord really lets you be able to have that search function have complete utility for you. So that's my tip for you.
That kind of search also works on the gallery, not as well at times. And if you are searching like on the main Midjourney server, include mentions at me, and you will only find the ones that are yours.
I'm just noting that you can use the search function to pull up your own username, and as long as it says mentions your username, you can pull up everything that has like that Midjourney bot sent to you. But Midjourney's Discord is massive, absolutely massive, probably the biggest Discord in terms of just raw content. It's probably the biggest Discord on the planet. Am I right? Is that a good guess for you, AC?
Yeah.
Yeah, easily.
By an order of magnitude, the largest server.
I don't know how this all kind of came together, but this is amazing in terms of like a technological achievement.
A lot of coordinating with Discord.
Yeah, I bet. Like I literally am like, I'm trying to imagine any other website trying to tackle what you guys are trying to do with Discord, and it's just not panning out in my head at all.
About your VTuber?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he wants to know how you did it. And then he asked for a link. So I'm looking. I know I thought I saw you did something on YouTube about it.
I mentioned very briefly about it at one point.
Okay.
So what I did was I generated a version of Victor using my character injections, and I'll just kind of very quickly demo that really quick here. So what I did was I have pre-baked into my mid-journey using prefer. So you write /prefer, and then you hit option set, write the name of your character. So for me, it's Victor, and you then put in the links inside of the value here. But you see that I've already made a couple of them. I have Victor back, which is just the back of Victor, so I know that I can easily generate him from the backside. It's a couple links, but it's mostly not his face that's being shown. Cowboy is actually a waist-up shot. 70s is realism for my Kubrick comic that I just came out with. I wanted to make sure that that was in the style of that. And then Victor himself is just all of the image references in one place. So you can then once you've made one, you can go into your image value here, your value, and then post all your URLs for your character references here. And I'll show you what those my character references look like anyway. So we'll do /imagine and then do like a full body. We'll just say just a full body pose. Him, black shirt, black hair. And just to make this easier, I'm going to do need you 5. And so essentially what I did was I isolated one of the results that I got and then brought it into a program called Adobe Character Creator. And Adobe Character Creator lets you do streaming, but it also lets you do animation with your webcam. So, oh wow, this result here that someone just made looks amazing. Like there's the boat and there's the guy, like oh, this is cool. I love all of this. But I want to show here before I get distracted. So say one of these poses kind of worked for what I was aiming for my VTuber. It's kind of like the top right one was kind of what I picked, but let's do the bottom left here. I'm going to up-res that. And then because I already have all my URLs baked in the mid-journey with /prefer, the only thing I have to do is hit variation strong or subtle. If I really like the poses, I would do subtle. But we now just put in Victor, Victor, and all those URLs now pop up, right? So if I open this up for you all while this is rendering, this is Victor. This is the raw version of Victor. Half of it's generated, and maybe a little less than half is drawn. But all these pieces here are semi-strategically picked, as in like I just got really happy with the results and I haven't changed them. But all these are images that are important to generate Victor. And the last one here is what I call an aesthetic plate. It's the least important picture. It's the one at the very end of the list. And this kind of helps establish his environment whenever he prompts him. As in, like, I kind of want a foggy space whenever he shows up. You do not need an aesthetic plate in your character sheet. But main thing I want to bring up here, though, is here's the variation strong, and that's my character. I mean, it's amazing. Variation strong is kind of mind blowing for this particular use case. And so I really liked these first, like the third and the second, or sorry, the first and the third one here, I up-res those. Okay. And then I basically go into Photoshop and I isolate out the character here, and then bring that into Adobe Character Creator and open up one of the presetted characters that are there. And then you just start swapping body parts until you get the character that you want. At least it moving the way that you want it to. I will eventually do a stream entirely dedicated to generating VTubers. I will get to that point. I just, frankly, it's the program I have the least experience with, and I did not craft Victor by scratch.
What is it called? Adobe what?
Adobe Character Creator. It's part of the Creative Suite, the CC Suite.
So that if anybody asks, I can type it in the chat.
Right. And you feel free to link them too. The main thing I'm going to say about it is that I'm almost a novice when using it. Like I feel a little dumb, honestly, when I'm kind of digging through some of the features there, because I have like I have all sorts of different experiences with other programs, particularly animation software. And this is more like puppet software. And there I'm like going back to my roots, and I'm like, oh, I love all the
And it's not
puppetry,
really
but
a Midjourney thing anyway. So, I mean, besides the
right.
fact that you generated the character in Midjourney.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. So you need Adobe Experience to really fully use it, but the best part about it is you can just drag and drop stuff from Photoshop into Adobe Character Creator. So very useful. Who generated a bag on my head? Is that a brain skull? I've been seeing that brain mask thing popping up from people on the Midjourney Discord and stuff like that. So you giving me a brain mask, I imagine here. Guy's head is made of bread. Okay. All right.
Redhead.
Okay. Bread head. I yeah. So I would say this.
A
Whenever
lot
it
of people
comes
are
to
giving you a lot of thank yous, and that this is a really
oh
good thing and cool.
oh well, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. We're having a lot of fun with the comic prompts today. I definitely want to expand on this, and like I said earlier, please go to VC Create and check out all the different stuff that people have generated. And I want you guys to like actually use MS Paint or Photoshop or whatever program you like and start cropping this together. Start trying to tell a story with it. But if you do use any of these images, I highly recommend that you click on the hamburger menu at the on the messages here. It's kind of hard for me to tell it on this one. Let me open this up on another. So if you are happy with any of the results that you get, right, and you share them and stuff, what I highly recommend doing is to include a link to it. So, for example, you can just come up to here, hit more, and then hit copy message link. And what that's going to do is it's going to let you have a URL directly to this prompt, so that if other people want to riff on it, they can go back to your original prompt and riff on it and actually make things with it. So, when it comes to like sharing and collaborating this stuff on a bigger scale, I really do see this stuff being a common practice of where you say, like, maybe, whoops,
Definitely
uh,
one of the cooler things about prompting in public.
right. And what I would almost recommend is keeping that with your images. So, like, for example, if you have for example, for here, I have this comic here. I could come into here and just save this as a text and just save that URL inside the document somewhere, so that I can then minimize this and just it's there. I know that even if I delete, all the context of the image here, I still have that URL somewhere inside my project, so that I can copy and paste that later and find the original message. Even just for personal record, it's nice for that. It does remind me, actually. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you were done, so I started to tell you that you had a comment, but tell me when you're done so I can tell you that you
Oh
had a
no, please
comment.
tell me the comment. I was about to actually go on a random little tangent, so that's perfect.
T-Tour also says, I'd also suggest upscaling images before editing them in Waifu or another upscaler. If you use noise reduction, it'll make it less obvious where your edits are, because the AI tends to have a bit of noise to it that makes it hard to blend with.
Yeah, and you also get that with variation subtle and stuff when it comes to like color correction issues and things. You'll notice that like when you in paint, right, one hand might be a little pinker than the other one because it's like the hues are slightly off or they're slightly
Yeah.
different between every generated image. I do a lot of color correction in my comics. In fact, in this one here, one of the in painted hands from her when she's opening up it's a soda can on the original generated version, but when she gets to the coffee cup here, see how when I generated the hand, it actually made the fingers pink behind her, so her hands are not matching in color tone. So I went back and I fixed the color tone of those hands as like a last minute correction on this. And it's not actually in the GIF, sadly. I rendered this GIF before actually finishing the comic, but it is in the final comic here. So if I kind of come into here and show that real quick, yeah, where the picking animation is happening, right? You could see now the canned colors match. So if I switch that back here so that you guys can see, it's pink here, and now it's not pink anymore. And that color tone matching is how you can really tell between amateur folks and non-amateur folks, is they understand that, oh, not only is that pink not supposed to be there, but I know how to fix it. I know how to change that. So, the only way I fixed that was actually by selecting the area and then using what is called lumetri color in order to balance the hues back to the original. So, and I won't be getting into all that because that is a half an hour tangent of technical information for a program that most people don't have. So, I do want to show one thing here, and I'm going to keep myself up on the screen here so I can kind of dig this in. I'm going to do a little shout out to an AI user right now. He is somebody who is pretty prominent on the Twitter Spaces. His name is Cybergem. And he is behind a couple of the kind of activism side of AI imagery stuff. He's actually one of the most level-headed people that I've talked to in our side of the. And I say our side, I hate that. I hate saying it's like we're sides here because I am so in the middle of everything. I just don't like saying that. But the one thing I'm going to share here from him involves hiding URLs inside of images or hiding information inside of images because he designed something really cool that I just need to pull it up here. So let's see. So this is him right here, Cybergem. But what he made here is really cool. Okay, so you can with stenography nodes, you can bake information inside of AI imagery, like actual code and stuff like that. Like input stega image, mutated pixels, and then data pixels, and you can basically embed information or knowledge that's not obvious to the audience, and they would never know that it's in there, and then pull that back out. And it's what he has here is this hide a gem text document that's hidden inside of this waifu wizard lady that's inside of here. So the reason I'm pulling this up though is because it would be really neat to see all sorts of almost like hidden just messages inside of the comics and stuff that we end up making, and it just takes by outputting and inputting to
Can you
his
tell us
thing
his
here.
name again?
Cybergem. I'll zoom in
Thanks.
on him here. Cybergem is awesome. He does a lot of AI content that is like directly addressing current issues like C2PA and all sorts of other stuff like that. So if you want more activism inside of your social stuff and whatnot, I highly recommend checking this kid
It's
out.
on Twitter, yeah.
He's on Twitter, right? But he's also he got bigger because one of the guys from Epic Games shared one of his tweets, and suddenly he was big. And he does programming. He does a lot of what you see going on down here, which is he has something called a virtual console for your I believe it's for Unreal Engine 5. So you can get all these really cool effects that are a working console, a working DOS prompt for your games and stuff like that sort of effect. But it looks super vaporwave, super psychedelic, and he has a whole thing. So him and I are friends, and I highly recommend that if you are especially into game development, EU, like a Unreal Engine, that kind of thing, you're gonna love this kid. He's all up there. And he's just a very active player inside of all this stuff now. So that's my shout out for today. So there you go.
There was somebody in the chat that asked about the Vtuber thing, asking more questions about that, but I mentioned that maybe time probably wouldn't allow for that, and that you already said that wasn't something that you were totally comfortable trying to teach.
Yeah, there's also a lot better software out there. Adobe Character Creator was kind of Adobe panicking and going, oh crap, people are getting into this VTuber thing, crap, and so we're gonna cobble together this program and make it work, and it does. And if you're familiar with the Adobe workflow, you're gonna be in heaven with Adobe Character Creator, but because you can just drag and drop your projects and stuff. But otherwise, I would be a little more open-minded to other programs. It's pretty cool. But yeah, since we're on the last 20 minutes here or so, I want to see if there's any other last minute questions from you all. So just throw them in right now. I know that I went on a bit of a negative tangent there, talking about some of the AI users and
No, I
stuff,
think it was
but
realistic, honestly.
yeah, I just really, I oftentimes get lumped with these people, and I really just, it's like I have to explain my backstory just so people believe me. You know what I mean when I say stuff.
Yep. The servers in there, and AC is he's saying is don't try to put servers in the chats if you're not green. If you share a server anywhere on Midjourney, you will get automatically kicked, not by a person. You're gonna have a heck of a time getting back in.
Yeah, and that's all to prevent spammers, people trying to get you to join their Discord to sell you NFTs or some other crap. There's too much NFT stuff in the AI space right now. It is one of those things where I want that trend to die so hard, and I don't know if it will.
You know, there's so few legitimate even like ideas in that space right now.
Yeah,
This was a good class. I think this was probably my favorite class so far.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I had a lot of fun with this one. I mean, I am kind of unveiling a little bit of the, kind of my secret sauce, which is I don't write massive prompts, right? I let Midjourney kind of go ham when it comes to the sheer expansion, and that all has to happen because the webcomics, we don't really know what webcomics it knows, what webcomics it has inside of it, right? So we're just like, I would rather have a generic response and then kind of whittle my way down. I look at this much closer to sculpture.
Yesterday with clarinet showing and painting, and I was co-hosting with him, and he was talking about how he was trying to get an apple to look at a person, and how Midjourney's pretty good about making eye contact, but having that person look at the apple. He was doing all sorts of crazy things to try to get it to happen. I'm like, I would just give the apple eyes for a minute and then have it make eye contact and then take them away.
There you go. Yeah. If you give it the anticipation, right? The expectation of, we might want these eyes to be locked in on each other. Yeah, that's great. I still really want to be able to have a way to avoid the feature set being in the middle. That is probably my biggest irk, is that sometimes I'll everything is good except for why is everything in the center? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be nice to see some I want the feature set leaned on the left side of the frame always, like that kind of thing. And I'm sure that's just a little too advanced for the average user, but yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what rule of thirds does, but I've seen some people use that and get.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and rule of thirds is kind of like the golden ratio, right? Where it's like you have to have balance in your imagery. And whenever you mess with Photoshop, by the way, and I'll just show this really quick. Whenever you're messing with Photoshop and you work with the cropping, it'll actually constantly show you the rule of thirds. So if we come in here, hit this, and I move this around, look, the rule of thirds shifts with it. So it's 3 columns, 3 rows, always. So it really easily lets you make sure that you have symmetry in what you're doing.
And a nifty.
Yeah. Also, by the way, another neat trick. This is a trick that's common in art, like traditional canvas work and whatnot. Just flip your canvas. If you flip your canvas, you can tell whether something looks wrong or not anatomically. It's a lot harder to tell that off of just the standard image here. So if I take any of these, for example, I'll just show this really quick with just this image on its own. Inside of Photoshop here, but here's the thing. You come into here, you select one of these frames here. We're going to do edit, transform, flip horizontally. Okay. And that may not look like it's very different, but the reality is that if we now go back and forth, we can kind of see that the eye line that is here, there's a lot of empty space that's here that we could put an ear right here or something. But if I flip it the other way, back how it was before, look at the collar. I never even noticed the collar was wrong at all. But after I flipped it, I noticed that there's an odd pull to the arm, right? And so a lot of times you can clean up an image just by mirroring.
Fit me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. It is quite funny actually. So a lot of the stuff when I generate Sage, because she has the same hair as my wife, right? A lot of the kind of expressions that are there that will generate are stuff that I'm just like, this is just like a hyper extroverted version of you sometimes. Like, like very goofy, very fun. But very much willing to let you know how she feels, and she's a lot more like, internalized in real life. So it's fun. It's fun to be like imagining if my wife was just very bombastic, right?
Yeah.
So that's the character there. So anyway, yeah, I
D-
wanted to talk about mirroring because it's, especially when it comes to faces, you'll notice a massive improvement in how good your faces look by mirroring them.
Question.
Yeah.
When you spoke about developing your own style, and it's not just throwing out numerous random images, I understand the need for doing that as a traditional artist, but as an AI artist, what do you see as the benefit of limiting yourself to a specific style?
Your
Well,
audience. It all comes down to your audience. Not your audience has an expectation of you when they subscribe. When they subscribe to, it's not like you shouldn't look at yourself as like HBO or another like production firm like that can make any kind of thing, and people will do it or people will watch it. You got to look at yourself more in the eyes of like, if I'm going to subscribe, I have an expectation. Like for example, say like you generated a couple of like goblin comics with goblins in it. You're probably going to get a bunch of D&D fans, like a bunch of folks that like fantasy stories and stuff because of the goblins, right?
mm,
If they subscribe to it and then the next thing they get is like a sci-fi drama with shooting laser guns everywhere, those D&D guys are going to tune out. They're going to be like, what the heck is this? I didn't subscribe to this. um that's why you keep a consistent style now. Originally, consistent styles were really mechanisms. They're mechanisms so that you can quickly animate, quickly draw. Most cartoonists are not animators. They know how to draw their characters because they've drawn those characters 10,000 plus times. And they know every minute, subtle little exaggeration is going to dictate something important. There's I say cartoonist specifically, named Don Hertzfeldt. I was very fortunate to meet Don Hertzfeldt once. He made the Rejected cartoons, the
yes.
my spoon is too big and
Mhm.
all that stuff. Um, Amazing guy, super funny. I was not expecting him to be as serious as he was. But yes, it is somebody who I was very fortunate to meet and then go get drinks with afterward. And I will say this: a single dot means more to him than a like uh, than anything else when it comes to style, because he was a stick figure guy. Like he literally just drew stick figures, you know what I mean, and very simplified things. But those simplified things had so much meaning behind every little thing. Yeah, Billy's Balloon, by the way, is a very dark cartoon. The one about the world ending is super good. I have to. It's a three-parter. This is the end or something like that. That one was the one that he screened for us, and I was very fortunate. The When it comes to the styles and stuff like that, like he at least when it comes to Don Hertzfeldt, I really think that if you the person you cannot replicate is him. You can replicate a dramatic art style within a specific world, all that stuff. But I'm sorry, getting dramatic stick figures to behave the way that he makes them behave is something I don't see happening with AI imagery soon. Yeah, World of Tomorrow. That's it. World of Tomorrow. World of Tomorrow is fantastic. It's very depressing. It is great though. I highly recommend it. It's basically about like, I'm not gonna spoil anything. It's just watch it. Just watch it. It's
Yeah,
really
it's right
good.
there for you to watch.
It's right there. Yeah, it's right there. Just watch it already. But yeah, overall though, I consider the man prolific in my life because he literally made me realize that my limitations don't matter. Like my art style doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It made me stop obsessing about trying to make or establish myself as having a specific look or whatever, and just want to get things done. Like I just want to tell this story and move on. And Yeah, I mean the guy obsessed about like getting his stick figures looking right for like months inside of a studio and stuff like that just to make those films, guys. Like it's if
Beautiful.
you really want to see what a cartooning in its true form looks like, that to me it's Don Hertzfeldt. So yeah.
But while we're talking about things to watch, I am going to throw in your 3 previous videos from
Oh,
Fridays
awesome. Thank you, thank
so
you,
that
thank you.
people can take a look at that. Your Discord's in the server. Um, what else can I put in here? I actually have automated my way to put your things up, so you can put
Oh,
your
neat.
black. Oh, I have a slash command for it now.
Ooh.
Um, and your Twitch. Your Twitch needs to go up there. Watch this. I'm gonna go
I appreciate it. And it's kind of funny too that we're
slash
kind of lining up on
Vic's
the time here.
Twitch.
Because my dogs are like starting to notice that like I'm stretching my back out and stuff, which is like there's little triggers for my dogs where they know that I'm about to sit up for my office chair, you know? And the my wife, it is so funny. She was like, I really hate that one of the triggers for the dogs is just you putting your headset down. Like just
Oh,
like I keep my headset on pretty consistently when I'm working and doing it because I listen to a lot of music when I'm doing generative imagery and then drawing and whatnot. I just don't stop listening to music. So the dogs are like they get so excited when I just take off my headset. So but yeah, thank you guys.
they're
I
so
actually
cute.
have to change that picture there. That image, the Twitch stream image is it actually is an old one. If you notice I have two sets of teeth in there. It's kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
I need to I have another version of that drawing where I filled in the midsection of teeth. Um the that drawing is one of my favorites actually.
You think you want to call it a night and come back next
Y-
Friday?
Yeah, yeah. So I think this is a good point to slow down. I know that Spirit Power from Texas. Can you you come back next week? We'll be doing the streams, but we if you scroll up, you can see all the previous streams and stuff like that. But if you're gonna throw a spirit bomb from Texas, please throw it at Texas, not anywhere else. And yeah, and then yeah, I'm very excited to be doing this stuff with you guys. We've had a lot of fun, in my opinion, making these sort of comics and exploring. But I really want you guys to go through VC Create, find your favorite comics, fix them up, and then send them to me. Don't post them to
feel like
Reddit. Send
feel
them
like
to
we're
me
finding our
first.
pace. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
actually feeling like a weird calm that I haven't felt in the last 2 or 3 because I think we're actually finding like our flow here,
That's
and
good.
that's
That's good.
good.
I'm happy to hear that. I don't, you could always take it easy with me. You know what I mean? Like, and thanks
Yeah,
for
and having a
following, by the
flow is
way.
good because that means that there's more to come.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, look, they're all coming in now. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate that. I will say that when it comes to the Twitch streamings, expect more games. I'm right now playing Pokemon Infinite Fusion, but I definitely want more recommendations for games and things. Florida is also an acceptable answer. Yes, I will agree to that. I lived in Miami for a couple years, and I don't wish that fate on anybody. Um, yeah, no thanks. But yeah, last minute questions. If anyone's got any in, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer. We are coming towards the end of a 4 hour stream here, so
I've
fun.
actually seen people throwing your videos and stuff around the chats too, without any kind of propulsion from me. So,
That's awesome. That's so cool to hear.
hmm
I mean, just being, there's a lot of work that went into my tutorial, particularly. Oh man, I had people being like, so like is this like an official like no, like this is entirely the smatterings of a filmmaker who deep dived into AI imagery for too long. And yeah, it is something that I'm just super happy to see people sharing it and getting something out of it, because I really did feel like a lot of the information that's in that tutorial is is relevant. A lot of people would benefit from knowing that they can use filmmaking terms in order to make movies now with AI. So I'll be getting into that, and depending on what sort of third-party apps and things I'll be allowed or willing to share here, I'll get into more of the explorative stuff that I've been doing too. So
I
it's
also threw your tutorial in the chat.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah. So if you click that, that is a Google document and it will take you through like basically a cheat sheet of everything, as well as everything that we'll be getting into with my streams. I wanted this Friday stream to be a filmmaking stream, but with in painting coming out, I was like, nope, we're doing that now. We're gonna
Right
in
back.
paint a bunch of things. So yeah. But if you guys got any questions, says VG is so nice to have someone sharing such good info without spamming some pay section. Right? Okay. So here's the thing. I really am not a fan of like begging for donations or anything like that. Like I mean, if it comes to that point at some point, I might, but I really don't like the idea of it, right? So I really want to figure out different ways to be able to encourage streaming, but also not have a tip jar. I really don't like the idea of just being like having to interrupt my tangents every 5 minutes and going, "Give me $1, give me $1, come on, give me that dollar." You know, come on, give me that dollar. You know, you want to give me that dollar. Like, I really don't want to be that guy. I really don't. But the whole sale, like some folks, just natural. Like they just have no problem being that. But I'm way too much of a goofy guy to be able to be like, hold on now, you're supporting my friends and family by giving me $5. Like, I'm not. I'll forget to do it, and then I won't make any money. So yeah, I thank you guys. I really appreciate hearing that. So it's usually some expensive course. Okay, yeah, I gotta tell you, the guy behind the Barbenheimer video, okay, I really like his stuff. I have no grudge against him whatsoever for trying to monetize his educational stuff, okay? But the fact that he won't talk to me because I do give stuff for free is so silly. Like he's just like he's never directly responded to me, okay? And I know that it is because he clicked on my tutorial link and went, he's giving all this crap away for free? And it probably just sent him into a bit of a rile. You know what I mean? So I give away everything. I don't have any sense of ownership for the stuff I make. And yeah, so enjoy, I guess.
Alrighty.
I think that's
Thinking
it. Yeah. Hey, it's Becky.
to
Hey, Becky.
Becky.
Becky. Oh yeah. Well, thank you guys. I have an issue. I have this. Okay, that's something related to Midjourney. I can't answer that. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys being here. And if you do want a tip, I'm not going to. I'm just not gonna. You know, I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate the offer. But I would much rather you use that money on, you know, gaining your own skills and doing things for yourself. It's just, it's like, you know, guys, I had my fun. I worked in Hollywood. I worked on some big productions and stuff like that. I really don't need to, you know, be taking money from random people on the internet. It's just something I personally take some guilt in and stuff, but I do appreciate the offer for
Just
sure.
put a coffee link on your thing.
Yeah, for a little bit I had a buymeacoffee.com thing or whatever, and I just didn't like it. I honestly didn't. I would much rather you donate that to like a children's charity to give them like school supplies for art stuff, you know? Like if
That's a bad
here's
idea.
well, here's where I kind of want to like kind of bring this all together. Wouldn't it be great if like Midjourney had like a massive donation fund for kids art supplies? Like to like as the program, like we a bunch of AI users buy into some sort. I was thinking of doing like art fights or whatever. We do some sort of like art fight donation thing where you get 5 attacks and they cost like $5 or whatever, and every time you buy those attacks, it's just gonna let you have an entry into a contest. And that contest is very simple. It's just, you know, do this. And the trick is that we can essentially get a bunch of AI users to donate money to art supplies for traditional art programs and things like that. I personally think that'd be fun. But yeah, it's definitely coming towards the end of the stream here, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I really am thankful to have so many people checking out what I'm doing. I didn't think it was possible, honestly. I was for a little bit there, especially after the tutorial came out, and I released a short called Chrome Lords on my website. That was my lowest period doing this stuff. The reaction I got from Chrome Lords was so bitter and so poor. Not really because of the context of what I was making, but because of like the medium itself, people don't want to look at AI actors. Like, they just don't right now. And I put so much work into incorporating the Chrome Lords stuff because it's my anime workflow, but for real life people. You know what I mean? And like that spooked a lot of people that I shared it to. So I'm just really glad to see this sort of like reception and retention to my work. And you guys are awesome. Every one of you guys are awesome. So thank you.
Yeah. Now get out of here. You're making it hard for him to leave.
but I don't. Yeah, no, I really should. My dogs are begging at me and stuff like that. They're like, "Come on, we need to poop."
I can press a button and force it to stop.
No,
We'll be back.
it's
We'll
not
be back on Friday. This was a really good one. It feels strange to leave.
Yeah, well, I we're having the issue where with the phone call where it's like, no, you hang up. No, you hang up.
Yeah,
No, you hang up.
Hang up on us.
Yeah. All right. You guys have a good one. See y'all.
Good night.
Good night.